I got an email from the wonderful Renee Buldo over at CBS, and she goes, would you like us to send breakfast for Al and you guys on his birthday? And I responded, yes. So I said, Al, there you go. That's my contribution
we're doing
today.
It for you, Al.
That is my contribution.
Happy birthday, Dick. Oh, Jesus. I mean, we're 2 minutes into the show, Eddie. Can you give us a little time to breathe and get it going this morning? Oh, my God. Hey, so
when did you edit that? About 4:15 this morning, Eddie?
No, that was from an old sports minute from happy birthday to Dick Button or whoever.
Yeah, Dick Enberg or something.
Enberg, Dick
Happy
Allen.
birthday, Dick.
Somebody else. So, anyway, you're unbelievable. The Mets couldn't get a hit if their life depended on it. I mean, they're just going out with a whimper. It's really sad to see.
Hilarious.
And they're healthy. They're healthy with the exception of the pitching staff, but their lineup is healthy. And they cannot get a hit, and it's getting to the point now where Ronnie and Keith are just getting silly in the booth because, as Keith said last night,
I'll take your word for it.
It's a long season. I know you weren't watching. I thought they were going to get no hit last night.
Yeah,
it started out that way, but the Yankees, they're trying to take care of business, but Toronto beat Tampa last night, so it's
still got to win, man.
You still got to win. You still got to beat the teams that you got to beat and the teams that you got to play, no matter who they are, but. It's going to be the last 10 days, or it's going to be a sprint to the finish here for the Yankees. And think about what happens if they don't make it.
Yeah, and that's what we've been talking about for weeks and even months. And I want to know how severe the changes are going to be. I mean, so everybody's going to talk about firing Aaron Boone. If Brian Cashman is still here, which you believe he will be, and I'm not so sure, and I'm not just saying the Yankees would fire him, but maybe he's at a point where he's like,
yeah, but who's the alternative?
I got to take a breather or something. I don't know.
Everybody says, fire a guy, fire a guy. I need to know who the alternative is.
But at the same time, sometimes people's their careers just run a course when you are a general manager or a manager. So, like, my rebuttal to that thought process, which is one that I tend to agree with, like, you better have an idea who is going to be the person that takes over, is that you can't just keep a person in a job if you don't think that that person is the right person for the job. The whole point of, searching for somebody else is to see who is out there, to go through the interview process. Maybe you stumble upon someone you had no idea was perfect for you. Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that was Bill Cowher, who had retired at that point. But you don't just keep somebody in a job if they're not getting the job done.
And last 2 years, I mean, forget last year. Forget the pandemic year. Prior to that, they were winning 100 games a year. And he's the one that made the decision to go away from Joe Girardi, who, by the way, his team may not make the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, that to me,
they just got shut out by a win, one of the worst teams in baseball on their home field.
Yeah.
Late in the season when they're in the middle of a pennant race, for God's sake. So, it's not always the manager. And last night, listening to David Cohen and Michael Kay talking about, the lineup changes and the tweaks that Aaron Boone is making. Aaron Boone's not making those lineup changes and tweaks. No. What are they talking about?
Right.
Those lineup changes and tweaks are coming down from the analytics gurus and from Brian Cashman's people.
And that's the point. If Cashman is still there, I think that Aaron Boone is still there because Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone really like working together. All right, so if those two guys remain, and the question, by the way, that Boomer asked was, if they don't make the playoffs, what happens? I mean, there's a very real possibility that not a lot happens. Okay, so Gary Sanchez might not be around. All right. Anybody else?
Gleyber Torres?
Maybe you trade Gleyber Torres to shake some things up, or you just put him at second base?
To me, when I look at both of these teams, and I will say this about my hockey team that's getting ready to start tomorrow, there was an obvious need for something to happen. Something had to change. The way the last 10 games of the regular season unfolded was unacceptable. It was unacceptable because the owner was there. The owner saw what was going on. I was there and I saw what was going on. And and I'm a hockey fan. I'm not a hockey player, and I don't know the.
Oh, don't sell yourself short. You're a hockey player.
But the point being is, I knew something had to be done.
Yeah,
something had to change because if you're going to tell me that we're building for the future and you still want my money for my season tickets and those tickets prices aren't going down, and I'm watching slop, I'm sorry. I'm not watching an AHL team get pushed around and play on the outside. I want to see somebody in front of the net knocking the crap out of the other team. That's what I'm buying my tickets for. I want my team to win.
And they went out and they made some of those changes.
Exactly. They made big changes. I never expected the coach or the general manager or even the president to get fired. I never expected that. But you know what? After 3 years of watching pussyfoot hockey, I want to see something. I want to see something real now. I want to see my team being able to protect its best players, and I want to see a coach that's going to push the players to play a different style of hockey. So, after 3 years of this, I couldn't take it anymore, and I don't think Ranger fans could take it anymore. That's the question that I would have for Yankee fans, and that's also the question I would have for Met fans.
Yeah, and I think the major changes need to happen with both teams, and I would even take it farther in saying that if the Yankees made it, won the one-game playoff, but then lost in the ALDS and were completely overmatched again by a better team, which we have seen the last couple of years from them, I'd still make those changes.
I think if you're sitting there, you're Hal Steinbrenner, and I believe that he sees Brian Cashman literally as a family member. I really believe that, and I believe that there's a level of trust there that it's very rare that you see that level of trust.
Yeah.
In any sort of professional sports situation. I'm trying to think of where that, maybe that was Greg Popovich with the San Antonio Spurs. I'm not really sure. But the thing I will say,
Brian Cashman sucks.
No, he doesn't. I was being sarcastic, and and Eddie just loves to play that. But I don't think he's going anywhere. I could see, maybe if they don't make it, there be pressure to not re-up Aaron Boone, but I hope I don't feel like any of this is Aaron Boone's fault either. I lay it really honestly at the feet of the players. I mean, you have players here.
The players that Brian Cashman brought in and stuck with.
Well, but he also has homegrown players. He has homegrown players like Gary Sanchez.
Yeah, but who he stuck with too long. He stuck with him too long.
Yeah, but I don't know what the alternative is at catcher. It's not like there's.
You could have signed JT Realmuto.
I know there's not like there's 18 catchers out there.
Yeah, the Yankees. There was JT Realmuto was a free agent. You could have signed him and brought him in. I mean,
well, the other thing when you're paying guys, you have two guys on your team that their contracts are over $300 million.
Okay,
so that also hamstrings you when it comes to signing, certain other players, and you had to re-up.
One of which was a mistake by Brian Cashman in bringing in Giancarlo Stanton. So this is my point. You put it at the feet of the players, but the guy who assembled these guys is the general manager.
Brian Cashman sucks. I just believe that in my heart that there's a trust there between Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman.
Okay.
I don't know. There's a bond there that it's going to be very, very hard to break it. And Brian Cashman can point out to a lot of different things, including all the injuries that they've had within the pitching staff itself. And last night it was nice to see Severino come back.
Yeah, over 700 days of no pitching.
It's amazing.
In a Major League Baseball game for Severino.
It's going to be like Noah Syndergaard next year.
Yeah. Well, you may even see him at the end of this year, right? I still think there's a shot.
There's no way.
That's what I thought I'd read or ignored a headline.
So, yes, both teams. If the Yankees don't make it, even if they make it, if they get either beaten a wild card game or they get beaten the next series, the division series, I could there's going to be change. There has to be changes.
Yeah, there has.
And we know the guys that are staying here. I think we all know the guys that are staying here. But how do they fortify the pitching staff, or will be a pitching staff that will actually have healthy pitchers, Herman and Severino, a part of it next year?
Well, that's right. And I do think that the reworking of the bullpen is going to be in order, just like every other team in Major League Baseball has to tweak that at the end of the season. They're going to have to do something with the rotation. But as far as their starting position players, a lot of these guys are going to be here. I mean, LeMahieu's going to
Gallo is going to be here.
He's under contract for another year.
So the question is, what about Rizzo, Voit? What about those two guys?
Well, they may re-sign Rizzo. I mean, I think Sanchez is gone. I think Torres moves back to second base. They could go out. I mean, there's two big free agent shortstops this year in Trevor Story and Javi Baez. That's something.
So then you'd put Urshela back at third.
Yeah.
And then what do you do with LeMahieu? I mean, so these are all, you have LeMahieu under contract.
I mean, maybe you trade Gleyber Torres to
I think
help the staff put LeMahieu at second base.
Something has to happen. Right now it's a flatlining team, and so the Mets are just atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, I told you that.
They are atrocious.
Unwatchable, irrelevant. The only reason they're relevant, if Steve Cohen isn't steaming, then he should sell the team. Because the only reason why they were relevant last night was because Yankee fans needed them to win to help their playoff chances. Outside of that, nobody cares what the Mets are doing. It doesn't matter. So that right there has got to make you just infuriated if you're the owner. But maybe he doesn't care. I don't know. I just that team makes me ill. They really do.
All right, well, speaking of making you ill, so did you see there were two general managers who had press conferences yesterday? And when you compare them to each other, it tells you all you need to know about the way certain things are run in this sports world that we live in. One was Lou Lamoriello, who comes out and says, if you're not vaccinated, you're not playing. And they have one unvaccinated minor leaguer who will be playing elsewhere. According to Lou.
Okay.
So and I think this is the hockey mandate as well, because Zach Ronaldo, who is a player who was invited to the Columbus Blue Jackets team, is not vaccinated, and they said, don't come. Don't even bother showing up. You're not coming. You're not vaccinated. You're not coming. That's all there is to it. And I would assume that all the Rangers have to be vaccinated because they play in Madison Square Garden, and our mayor has mandated that anybody over 12 going to a public place inside has to be vaccinated.
That's right.
And you have to show proof of vaccination either on your Excelsior Pass or with your vaccination card or whatever else other thing that they can
if you want
your public life.
You want to go to Carmine's, you got to make sure that you.
Jesus, don't even start. So anyway. So you have that general manager saying this, and then you have Sean Marks stammering all over HIPAA laws and everything else
which is not the
proper way of using it.
Yeah.
And talking about how, of course, we wouldn't have everybody in the picture today if we had to show up today and practice. And meanwhile, they practice out in La Jolla.
Yeah, I know.
They practice in freaking California for what?
I don't.
Why
because that's what the players want. That's why. That's what they want. They don't want to be here.
So he will not tell you who is unvaccinated. So
who do we think is HIPAA laws. We won't say who it is, but we have a couple guys who aren't still unvaccinated.
These guys. I mean, so you also have two guys that could easily sign contract extensions. So Kevin Durant has signed his contract, 4-year contract extension with the Nets. Harden and Kyrie Irving can sign today if they wanted to, but they still haven't signed their contracts. So I'm just wondering, is it those two guys that are unvaccinated?
I would.
Let's take a guess. Who do you think on the Nets roster is unvaccinated?
I mean, I'm sorry to say, but of course the first guy that pops in my mind is Kyrie Irving. That's the first guy. Now, I feel like Harden and Durant really do want to win a championship together, and I'm not saying Kyrie doesn't. But Kyrie's made it clear that basketball isn't the number one priority in his life. He likes playing. He'd like to win. But there's other things that are more important to him. And I could also see him he'll probably find, because if you look at the story, if you get a religious or medical exemption, you don't have to get the vaccine. He will find a way to get one of those two things and not be vaccinated. I can guarantee you. But yeah. Were you surprised that the NBA players and the Nets steamrolled Sean Marks over this?
Just looking at Sean Marks up there going, you got to be kidding me. I mean,
I told the guys, I said, there's Pfizer, there's Moderna. I said, don't get the Johnson & Johnson. That one doesn't work. All the Yankees got it, the COVID after the Johnson & Johnson. The same guys who made the Johnson & Johnson vaccine own the Jets. That's all you need to know. So you have the Pfizer and the Moderna.
Come on.
You take one of those two and we'll go play some basketball. Oh, God. What a mess.
What a mess. Now, I haven't heard anything about the Knicks because nobody talks for the Knicks.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, nobody. Leon Rose doesn't talk. Nobody talks.
It is absolutely amazing that you could be either Glenn Sather when he was here, and he's still here.
But of course he's here, yes.
When he was the main guy and not the person who is like, he's sort of there breathing down the neck of the general manager. But Glenn Sather and now Leon Rose, who are the main executives in Madison Square Garden of two of the most popular franchises in the city, and they never talk. It's amazing that you had two guys like this. Never. Press conference? Get the hell out of here. I'm not talking. I'm just going to be in the shadows. It really is incredible.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.